Hardcore Ironman. Simply put, the most unforgiving game mode old school RuneScape has to offer. One mistake, one lapse of attention, one misclick is all it takes for your hardcore status and potentially thousands of hours of work to evaporate. In such a brutal game mode, playing it safe can be tempting, and the further you progress, the stronger that temptation becomes. This is the front page of the Hardcore Ironman high scores. As you begin to parse through the top players, you'll notice something. The majority of these accounts have incredibly short PVM resumes. This is understandable, considering that calling old school servers stable would be generous. Most agree that those bold enough to pursue RuneScape's rarest items will eventually be faced with the worst sight a hardcore Ironman can lay eyes upon: the disconnection message. Be it lag or user error, Risk Aversion has produced a hardcore Ironman front page that's largely focused on skilling. But that raises a difficult question. In a high score system that's measured by total level rather than mechanical prowess, can we really call the front page hardcores the best based solely on their presence on the front page? And if not, then who is the best? Before I answer that, let's take a step back. How do I define the best when it comes to hardcores? There's a few factors to balance. First is skilling. You simply cannot disregard total levels and experience. Risk averse or not, skilling is both a measurement of time investment and burnout mitigation. Given infinite time, most players would burn out long before reaching the thresholds for a front page ranking. While I see skilling as an important pillar in determining general account value, I assigned it a lower weighting for hardcore variation specifically because there's little differentiation between skilling on a normal Ironman account versus a hardcore. That brings me to pillar number 2, which is of course PVM. To me, this is the single biggest factor in determining if I'm dealing with a really dedicated player or a really good player. Engaging in endgame bossing on a hardcore requires razor-sharp game knowledge, but also nerves of steel. Remember your first encounter with Jad back in the day? Now imagine that feeling amplified with RuneScape's newer, significantly more difficult bosses, and the knowledge that even one mistake or delayed reaction could result in your account being ruined forever. And if you're consistently bossing, repeat those high stakes every time you enter a PVM encounter. This is why I place PVM on such a tall pedestal for determining the best hardcore Ironman. But before I crown the account that I think deserves the title of the best hardcore, there's one last criterion that I need to address: creativity. For example, does this account have any added restrictions? Is something making their gameplay more challenging? Have they invented any brand new methods to tackle challenges that were once thought to be absurd on a hardcore Ironman? Of course, my pick for the best hardcore Ironman checks all of these boxes. Nearly 2k total with just 1 defense, low combat stats, a PVM resume worthy of Wooks' admiration, and author of numerous ingenious PVM methods. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce RuneScape's best hardcore Ironman, Tree Climbed, aka Exact. As you can see, the account is an absolute monster, but let's take a closer look. At the time of recording, Tree Climbed sits just under 2k total, But remember, he's 1 defense, 94 attack, and 55 prayer. If he allowed himself to train up those stats, he'd be close to 2150 total, so his skilling progression is a bit deceiving. That brings me to PVM, for which this account is ranked in nearly every boss. Not only that, but Exact currently has front page rankings for 10 bosses. Equipped with just paper-thin defense bonuses and balls of rune, Exact has managed to acquire the most impressive collection of PVM items of any hardcore Ironman ever. The list is literally so long that I don't have time to name them all, but I'm talking a complete bludgeon from Sire, an ACB, SGS, BGS, Blade of Selador, Callisto Uniques, Scythe, Sangstaff, Rapier, ornament kits from Theater of Blood, Twisted Bow, Scorpia Pet, Dragon Warhammer, and full Inquisitor armor along with the mace. Beyond items, Treecline is currently ranked 2 at Fasani's Nightmare, which is absolutely one of the riskiest bosses to tackle on a hardcore, with 1500 KC. He's front page for 5 different Wildy bosses, including rank 1 for Scorpia with over 3500 KC, which he accomplished by creating a genius new strategy that allowed him to take on the boss without being hit by any of the minions. By avoiding the minions, he was able to farm the boss without being hit, meaning he could log out from PKers inside of Scorpia's lair. Some of his other strategies are so mind-blowingly unique that I'm not even allowed to discuss them in this video. These new metas have enabled him to tackle bosses that otherwise would be deemed too risky to take on, such as Kriara and TOB hard mode. As you might imagine, with so much PVM under his belt, Exact has had some butt-clenchingly close brushes with death. In particular, hard mode Theater of Blood has produced some of the most anxiety-inducing situations a hardcore could ever face. Let's take a look at a few. I asked Exact, if he had to predict the death of his own hardcore, how does he think he'll go? Hard mode TOB, Fasani, maybe an unlucky DC as Sire? No. He told me his biggest fear was dying while AFK to something like an aggressive monster or desert heat. Yes, the game's best PVMer is worried about desert heat. Even with so many close calls, Exact continues to push the limits of PVM on a hardcore. Between his dedication, raw talent, and inventive approach towards tackling some of the most dangerous challenges that PVM has to offer, there's no doubt in my mind that Treecline is absolutely the best hardcore to ever do it. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more unique Ironman, cybersecurity, and other interesting old school content. Thank you. I want to give a huge thank you to Exact for his collaboration on this project. He actually had no idea that I'd be making a video where I name him the best hardcore. I originally planned on making Treecline a smaller part of a different video, but after taking a look at his account, I was so blown away that I just had to give it its own episode. I also just want to say that Exact has been an absolute pleasure to talk with and incredibly generous in lending some of his time to work with a small creator like myself. Please do give him a follow on Twitter and also subscribe to his YouTube channel. Both of those links will be in the description below. I promise you do not want to miss the content that he's putting out. Lastly, another set of thank yous to Barack Obama, Xerxes, Addy, and Lemoy for giving permission either to me or to Exact, who then extended that permission to me to use clips in this video. I'll also be leaving their info below, and if you enjoy peak PVM content, then definitely check them out. That's it. Thanks for watching. Stay kind, healthy, and happy. I'll see you all next time.